Greetings and welcome to another edition of What's Hot with Sea of Tranquility. I am your host, Pete Pardo. Today is Monday, May the 31st, last day of May. Just got done here in the U.S. with our Memorial Day weekend. Hope you all enjoyed yourselves. If you're not from the U.S., hope you had a great weekend. Start of the new week. We're already a day into it. So, as we said last time we met, which was a couple weeks ago, we've taken a few weeks off. There's a ton of new stuff coming out. We've got a stack of things that I want to cover with you. We're not going to get into all of it today, so we're going to do another episode probably in a couple days. But for right now, it's like, let's dive right into it, shall we? So this one that we're going to talk about first, our featured CD of the week, it's the latest from new wave of British heavy metal legends, and they are indeed legends, Diamond Head, self-titled. All right, you're hearing it right here. Fantastic. Killer, memorable riffs from, Brian Tatler, main guy. He's been with them from the beginning, okay? He's still carrying on the band. We've got a fantastic new singer, Rasmus Baum Anderson. He is fantastic, let me tell you. There are just some stellar tunes on here. This is called Bones, kickoff track. It's got a killer riff, memorable chorus. That's what you want out of a great heavy tune, right? Shout at the Devil, another kick-ass song. Set My Soul on Fire. Wizard Sleep, Speed, Blood on My Hands, Diamonds. It's like one great track after another. Like I said, it's all quite memorable and just stellar musicianship. It's just vintage hard rock and metal as only Diamond Head could do it. It's moody in spots. I mean, just really, really good stuff. There's the guys right there. That's what they're looking like today. They're going to be touring the U.S. Over the next couple months. And if you've never seen them before, I have not. I'm going to be going. Make sure you check them out. If you have, it's probably been a few years because I think that it was about maybe 2-3 years ago they were here last. So definitely a highlight of 2016. Going to be one of my favorites of the year. Another album that's going to be a highlight. We're going to stick in the UK right now. We're going to move over to progressive rock, progressive metal. It's the latest from Cakin Affinity. It's their 4th album. What more can you say about these guys? Every album has been just fantastic, stellar, combining vintage and modern styles of prog rock, progressive metal, pop vocals and melodies. I mean, just, got a special edition double disc, so you got the regular album and then a bonus disc which got some interesting instrumental variations of the songs. Just epic songs, amazing vocals, I mean soaring vocals. And the musicianship, the guitar and keyboard work is just stellar. It's like a lot of people have been kind of bitching and moaning about some of the directions that Dream Theater has been going over the last decade or so. Well, if you're one of those people and you never listen to Haken, check these guys out. I don't know what else to say about it. If you have not discovered this band, you've been living under a rock. They are one of the best bands of the genre going today. And along with the latest release from Circus Maximus, Havoc, you've got probably two of the best prog releases we've seen so far this year, as far as like accessibility, killer playing, all that kind of stuff, everything you love in the genre. So, Haken Affinity, check it out if you haven't already. All right, we're going to kind of stick in progressive type stuff here, but we're going to move over to progressive death metal. California's Fallujah, Dreamless, is their latest. They are now on Nuclear Blast Records. I said in my review on the website of this CD a couple weeks ago that, since Opeth from Sweden, since they've decided to kind of go more of the straight prog band route, there's been like a little bit of a lull, a little bit of a gap for who's going to take up the mantle of the most intense progressive death metal band and really push the boundaries. Well, look no further because they're right here. This is great stuff. These guys mix crushing riffs, intricate guitar lines, growling vocals, fantastic growling vocals, by the way, and they mix it with these, keyboards that span like space rock and ambient, electronica, progressive rock for sure, little touches of jazz and folk here and there, but, more importantly, it's just really intense, thought-provoking, and boundary-pushing music, and that's kind of the gist of what these guys are doing. They're taking death metal into new places, and I'm telling you, if you haven't investigated this band, start here, but, feel free to go back. They've got a couple other albums. This is their last one. Fantastic as well. Highly recommend that. So, back to the Diamond Head. Shout out to the Devil. Great tune. Nothing to do with the Motley Crue song. Anyway, so Fallujah, Dreamless. fantastic. Hopefully now that they're on Nuclear Blast, the label will help take them to kind of new places. So. We're going to stick in, again, all things progressive. Here's a band from Germany. Haven't heard from in a few years, but if you've been following the progressive metal scene for the last 20 or so, they were making lots of waves throughout the 90s and the early 2000s. They were on Inside Out Records for a number of releases, a number of years. They now find themselves on Metalville Records. We're talking about Poverty's No Crime. Spiral of Fear is their latest. I'm digging it. You know, they took a few years away, but they have not missed a beat. Again, if you like the classic progressive metal style of the 90s and the early 2000s, that's what you get here. Kick-ass vocals, amazing shredding guitar and keyboard work that complement each other really, really well. Memorable tunes. You know, some of the tunes are a little lengthy, some a little shorter, but it gives you kind of everything you want. More importantly, the songs are very memorable. And, you know, that's why it was just great to hear something like this, because it's just so good to hear some of these progressive metal bands who are all about more than just shredding and, you know, blinding you with incredible dexterity on the guitar and the keyboards and the drums and the rhythms and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you want to hear all that, but you want that to be housed within songs that are memorable and catchy. And these guys do it well. They've been doing it for years, actually. They've always been good at that. So, you know, again, along with the Haken and the Circus Maximus, you know, some really good stuff in the progressive rock, progressive metal genres coming out. So, again, if you've kind of forgotten about these guys, forget no more. Get reacquainted. Metalville Records, Poverty's No Crime. Check it out. We're going to kind of stay with a lot of prog stuff going on today. And that's a good thing, because there's a lot of good prog stuff coming out. This latest one is from a band called Tiles. Okay, they're from the upper Midwest. I'm sure you've heard of them if you've been listening to prog for the last 20 or so years. Pretending to Run is their latest. And, you know, it's a concept album. 2 discs. So you're thinking, oh boy, another prog concept album. Did we just have way too much with that latest Dream Theater, The Astonishing? Okay, well, we're not going to talk about The Astonishing today because I've already said my piece about that one. But if we're going to stack them both together, you know, a lot of music on both, my money goes for this one. I really enjoy this a lot. For those of you who don't know Tiles, they have been heavily influenced by Rush. In fact, the old Rush producer Terry Brown has been working with many of these guys from the beginning. And, you know, it's just, production-wise, it's great. Do they sound a little like Rush? Yeah, a little bit. They combine, like, you know, hard rock, heavy rock with bits of prog. Fantastic vocals, really driving tunes, great rhythms, crunchy riffs. You know, like I said, this one's a concept album. It's a pretty interesting storyline. And, you know, all sorts of cool stuff in here. Lots of guest stars, very notable people from across the prog and metal, hard rock, and jazz fusion genres. You know, Ian Anderson makes an appearance. The guys from Stephen Wilson's band make an appearance. You know, all sorts of cool guest stars. Mike Stern, jazz guitar legend of all people, shows up and throws in the solo. It's really, really good. I love that cover. I'm big into Turtles, so I think it's pretty neat. But highly recommend this a lot. It's you know, it's just a really, really good concept album for one, but a really just good heavy prog album too. And it's on Laser's Edge, which, you know, Ken Gold and the company, they always pump out really, really good products. So another really good one to check out. So here's another one. We're moving out of prog now. We're gonna go into you know, like commercial hard rock, 80s style hard rock. This is a band, kind of a super group called 4 by Fate, Relentless. All right, they're on The End Records. Now, you might be asking, well, Pete, who's in the band? Well, I'm going to tell you. All right, you've got Todd Howarth. Howarth, I never know how to say his name. Singer, guitar player, songwriter. He's played with Ace Frehley, Cheap Trick. You know, he's been all over the map. I think he did a stint in Heart. You've got John Regan, right? John Regan has played bass with Peter Frampton and on numerous other people. You've got Mr. Oh boy, here I go. You know, and I'm not wearing my glasses, and I'm gonna forget all this stuff. Bear with me a second, folks. AJ Pero, the late AJ Pero's on here. We've got the former drummer from Skid Row is also on here. I'm forgetting names left and right here, so forgive me, folks. But it's just really good. You know, it's kind of 80s style hard rock, bits of metal, crunchy. It's catchy. You know, think very early Bon Jovi. Okay, with the mix of some other acts from the 80s. but not. I'm more going in terms of accessibility. It's just really, really good stuff, and I think if these guys get some airplay and exposure, people really dig this. So if you love the kind of commercial hard rock of the 80s, you know, Journey also, bits of Foreigner, that type of thing, maybe heavier guitars though, this is just really, really good. I like it. Very, very solid, so check it out. You know, Todd has always been, in my opinion, one of those kind of undiscovered geniuses. Just a really good singer, great songwriter, you know, great rhythm guitar player, and, you know, John Regan's just steady as ever, so it's just, you know, highly recommended. Rob Afuso, that's the drummer, I knew I was going to remember it, and and I forget the other guitar player and songwriter who's in the band, he's stellar, he plays most of the lead guitar, really, really good, so forgive me for all this forgetful stuff, but 4 by Fate, check it out. All right, we are going to jump over to Italy for some doom and 70s hard rock. It's the new one from Arcana 13, Danza Macabra. All right, this is a really interesting album. These guys are obviously influenced by Black Sabbath and Pentagram. So again, that kind of early doom and heavy rock stuff in the 70s. But they're also greatly influenced by like classic horror movies of the 70s and the early 80s, you know, like Suspiria, and, you know, the works of Lucio Fulci, Dario Argento, some of the other U.S. horror movies. So every tune on here is kind of inspired by one of those horror movies. And the music is genuinely kind of creepy, but it's heavy. There's lots of big, lumbering, heavy doom riffs and kind of chilling vocals, and I really dig this a lot. There's a lot of atmosphere, you know. You'll even hear some familiar kind of musical passages that will remind you of soundtracks from some of these classic horror movies. So if you really dig like kind of the 70s doom and hard rock, and you love like classic horror movies, especially the European horror movies, I think you'll have a blast with this. I dig it a lot. It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. All right, so now we're going to kind of move into some live stuff and sort of reissue type of things. So this is a live album, a recent live album from a band that I've loved for a long, long time. It's a band called Lucifer's Friend. They were around in the 70s and the early 80s. They had a cat named John Lawton singing lead vocals for them, and John, as many of you would know, would leave Lucifer's Friend and go to join Uriah Heep for a bunch of albums in a few years. Then he would leave Heep and go back to Lucifer's Friend, and Lucifer's Friend broke up for many, many years, and then they got back together, I don't know, a year and a half or so, 2 years ago, and they happened to play last year's Sweden Rock Festival. So, of course, this is the CD document of that performance. It's called Live at Sweden Rock 2015. So you basically got John Lawton and the original guitar player and a couple other members who were in the band like later on, and a couple new guys, and it's just a fantastic performance. You never know if these guys were broken up for all those years. Lawton sounds so good. This guy can still sing and scream with the best of them, and he's like, 72 years old or something. All the riffs are there, the prog keyboards are there. It's vintage 70s heavy rock meets prog, little bits of blues rock. They play a lot of their great tunes from the 70s from those first bunch of albums, as well as a couple of new tracks that they recorded for a compilation album, which we talked about a month or so ago. And so there's a mix of kind of newer tracks as well as vintage stuff. It's all great. Great live performance. Lucifer's Friend is back. I hope they come here to the U.S. Word is they're working on another brand new album of all original material, so that'll be really cool to hear. So again, Lucifer's Friend live at Sweden Rock 2015. Really, really cool. Now, okay, we're going to go over to Century Media for a sort of reissue of a band that probably nobody's heard about, and because they never released anything back in the day. It's a band from Chicago called Sindrome. Okay, it's called Resurrection, the Complete Collection. All right, now, a little bit of history. So Sindrome were a kind of like thrashy early death metal band that played a lot on the Chicago scene back in the late 80s, early 90s. They opened for a lot of bands you know of, okay, and they recorded a couple demos, never released them, and then broke up, faded into oblivion. So this was by the early 90s, they were done. So I guess if you lived in the Chicago area and you were into the early extreme metal sounds and into thrash, you probably have heard of these guys. But for us here on the East Coast, never heard of them. It's pretty good stuff. It's like very, very technical thrash. with a little bit of mix of the early death metal sound, like I said before. But the guitar riffs and the arrangements are really, really good, really intricate. I don't really know how to describe them. They don't really sound like anybody else, but if you can imagine maybe that the early death sound, but a little more thrashy, less in the death metal slam. Vocals are kind of gruff, but they're not a full growl by any means. They're very different. I will say the vocals here are like anything I've ever heard before. Almost like kind of like he's talking, but doing it in a gruff style. Kind of interesting. The songs are really, really good. They're heavy. They're kind of epic sounding. You know, as these were demos, they've been cleaned up by the Century Media folks. They still sound a little muddy, but it's pretty good. It also comes with a bonus live CD, a performance of them opening up for Chuck Schuldiner and Death back in the day. The audio quality of that show is pretty terrible, but it's just kind of cool to hear something from that era, especially opening for Death, and you can tell like what a pretty lethal live outfit they were. It's a shame they kind of broke up, but anyway, very, very cool stuff. Highly recommend it if you're into kind of like the rarities from the late 80s on the metal scene. So I dig it, really good. Our last little bit for the day, of course, is Forgotten Favorites. We're going to go back to 1984 to an album that I was quite into back in the day. I still every now and then like to put it on, just because it reminds me of that early new wave of British heavy metal scene. And these guys actually made some pretty big waves with this album, and then their second album came out, and kind of they kind of faded after that. But I'm talking about Grim Reaper, See You in Hell, my friends. It's kind of cheesy to listen back to it today, but I still dig it. Dead on Arrival, See You, the title track, See You in Hell. Just some really, really cool stuff. You had Steve Grimmett and company, just the high-pitched vocals and the great kind of lead guitar work, and riffs aplenty, but more important, it was just one anthem after another. I actually got to see them live once. That was kind of a lot of fun. So, a band that probably doesn't get mentioned enough when people look back and talk about the greats of the new wave of British heavy metal scene, but they were definitely one of them. They came around kind of a little on the later end of when that all exploded, but I think they're no less important. So, again, Grim Reaper, See You in Hell from 1984, long been one of my kind of guilty pleasures, favorites, but it's definitely a forgotten favorite. I know most people probably have forgotten about these guys. I certainly haven't. So I was looking for something to talk about today. I like, I played this a couple weeks ago, and I was like, yeah, this is good. So anyway, with that, I'm going to leave you. We'll be back in a very short few days. Again, I've got a slew of other stuff I want to talk about. We've got some great new releases on the Metal Blade Records label that we want to share with you, as well as Nightmare Records, which is Lance King's progressive metal label. And they've been more than nice enough to share some of their stuff with us so we can talk about them with all of you. So, till then, be safe. Have a good rest of the week. Make sure you check out a lot of this good new stuff, because a lot of it is really, really good and worth your attention. And we'll see you next time on What's Hot with Sea of Tranquility. In the meantime, check us out on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and of course, we're here on YouTube as well. So have a good one. See you next time. Bye-bye.